The views and opinions expressed on the One Mark podcast are those of the authors or guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of One Mark. Any content provided by our guests or authors are of their own opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything.
Parkstown, the mayor, every other mayor, Mashaba, Kwamanda, Mpo Palace, they are walking past those buildings that belong to the state every day.
Yeah.
And the thugs are putting people there and collecting rent. Some of the buildings, the thugs are running with 500,000 a month to $1 million per month, collecting it from these people.
Dumelang, Afsheni, Sanbonani, Khoyadag, Lotani, Molweni. Welcome to the One Mark podcast, where we delve into real conversations about civil rights education. I am your host, Innocent Mohammed, Karibe ya Motswana mo Afrika Bora, and I am so thrilled to have you join us as we embark on this beautiful, beautiful educational journey. As usual, I am not alone. I am with my beautiful co-host.
Hello everybody and welcome. Siyanamgela to yet another episode of the One Mark podcast. My name is Mbali Mota. Dombi Msati Lamvulani Jabengomo all the way from Mpumalanga. Thank you for taking your time to join us today. We want this podcast to be a safe space for everyone to engage openly about civic education and service delivery issues. We hope to start conversations in your homes, in your cars, or wherever you are.
In today's episode, we will be talking about a topic that affects every citizen's daily life, which is service delivery. Service delivery in South Africa is a multi-layered process that involves different government structures. In our discussion today, we will be looking at the role that the government plays in service delivery, community participation and involvement, particularly in how they hold government accountable. We will also look at current challenges and successes in service delivery.
And with that said, it doesn't mean that our government is getting everything right. I mean, as citizens of this country, we know that South Africa is facing a lot of challenges, from basic services such as education, healthcare, infrastructure, just to mention a few. And I think it's also important and to note and to also highlight that the accessibility and effectiveness of the services or the delivery of the services vary greatly from region to region. We'll also be talking about the role of government, and how they deliver the services to us as citizens, and also our involvement and our participation as citizens. Joining us today in studio is political analyst and governance expert, Mr. Sandile Swana. Good morning, Mr. Sandile, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning to you, Mbali, and good morning to your viewers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Swana, for joining us today. We are really honored to have you in our studios as we engage in this important and significant topic, which is service delivery. Before we go into anything, I just want us to take it to who is actually responsible for service delivery in South Africa. We do understand that it is the South African government, and the South African government actually have different structures, or rather spheres, that are put in place to address the needs of the citizens. Could you maybe take us through what those spheres are and why are they put in place?
Thank you. So thank you so much. What is going on here is that, first of all, South Africa is a country with clear boundaries.
Yes.
And there is no part of the country that is not accounted for.
Yes.
So every part of the country falls within a ward, and every stand is registered with the registry in Pretoria. So the government of South Africa presides over that territory, first and foremost. Now, the structure of our government, every one of the three spheres of government nationally, is three pillars. The legislature, which makes the laws of this country.
Yes.
then the judiciary, which makes sure that if people have got any disputes or conflicts with the law, the judiciary, the judges, the magistrates, and so on, must make decisions to say who is right and who is wrong, including whether Parliament, the legislature, is passing laws that fall within the ambit of the Constitution.
Right.
Any citizen, any organization can take the government, the legislature, Parliament to court to say this law that you've passed is unconstitutional. And it has happened many times in South Africa.
Yeah.
Yes.
So then you have the executive, which is the president and his cabinet. So everything that, when you talk about service delivery, the executive, the word executive means you execute, you carry out the tasks of the government. Those tasks are listed in the Constitution and many other laws of the Republic. So the president is the first one when it comes to service delivery, and the cabinet. They must actually physically deliver what is needed in the Constitution and in all the laws, the budgets, and everything of this country. Secondly, because we are also divided into 9 provinces, there is a provincial government. For instance, we are in Gauteng now. There's a Gauteng provincial government. There's a premier who's like a mini president of the province, and has MECs, members of the executive council. So that is the executive of the province. There is a legislature of the province, and there should be provincial courts as well, in whatever form they may be, tribunals of one kind or the other, to enforce laws that are peculiar to that province, or to make judgments on those laws. Now, locally, you have 3 types of municipalities. You have a metro, which is Joburg Metro, Swana Metro, Ekurhuleni Metro, Buffalo City Metro, Mangaung Metro, City of Cape Town, Gqeberha, and so on. So those are the metros. Then you have districts. Most of the more rural areas, which is the majority of South Africa, actually have district municipalities. Those district municipalities swallows up maybe 5 local municipalities. And there's a district presiding over that. In that district, you also have a council, which is the legislature. And one of the things that need to be done there is to pass bylaws. And everybody who lives in South Africa must live under bylaws of the municipality where they live. And there must be a judiciary. So if you go into Google and you type municipal courts, the names of municipal courts will actually appear there. And those courts are supposed to be enforcing bylaws in South Africa for those municipalities for which they are responsible. Bylaws need to be enforced. And then you have the executive. The executive, you have your mayor and the MMCs. It's like here in Joburg. You have a mayor, and the mayor has got a mayoral committee who actually have got different portfolios to make sure that, for instance, now they are trying to recover the buildings that have been hijacked. So you will see an MMC physically going out there with the staff of the department to make sure that those people are removed and those buildings are restored to their proper rightful owners, and so on and so forth. So that is basically how this country is supposed to be run and governed. More importantly, there is no part of this country that is unknown, that the government is not supposed to be doing something about that part of the country.
All right. So I'm just trying to also understand. Thank you so much for breaking down the structures of the government. I'm trying now to understand, in terms of service delivery, how are the funds allocated between those structures that you just mentioned?
Yes, indeed. So for these structures, first of all, to be sustained and to continue to exist as a government, they must be funded quite clearly.
Yes.
So most of us have got the view that the money that funds the government comes from VAT, the taxes, comes from your income tax. But when it comes to service delivery, you will be surprised that a lot of the organizations, institutions that deliver a lot of the services actually don't get a lot of that money.
Oh.
So for instance, places like Joburg Metro, if you look at their money, maybe 80% or more comes from their own funding. In other words, because they are able to attract a lot of businesses into Joburg, those businesses pay for rates and taxes, they pay for water and lights, all kinds of services that then create a lot of revenue, a lot of it, in billions. into the city. So it's important for any municipality that is going to be viable to be able to attract and retain businesses that are going to pay money into that. A municipality can actually run independently almost, and some of them are almost at that level. So then the other part of the revenue, which is collected through the taxes, is then divided. There's a law actually which is called the Division of Revenue Act, which means these taxes that are collected across the nation are then divided according to this law. Some of them, politicians will say there's no real formula. We make a democratic decision, this, that, and the other. But actually, there is some kind of a formula, because depending on the population that you have, indigence, in other words, how much poverty is in that province, how much unemployment is in other things, you will probably get a more of what they call an equitable share, because the richer provinces must get less, the ones that have got more poverty a little bit more to cover for the poverty, because they are not economically active and productive. So they have to be subsidized. So a lot of our municipalities outside of the metro are actually almost closer to 100% subsidized. So everything there is based on a grant. The municipality lives on a grant, and the population generally lives on cash grants, the social grants, and so on, everything. So it's important for municipalities to get into the business of attracting and retaining businesses.
But I mean, I hear what you're saying, Mr. Swana, but I'm just worried. I'm listening to how the metros are making money and, and retaining their budget like that. But what about these rural areas? I mean, there are places and areas in South Africa where it's just rural areas where the town is so small that it is so difficult to attract businesses. Like you said, you made an example about that. What happens there then? How can they make money to sustain themselves as a municipality? Are there any other ways and ideas? Because, I mean, you're saying they are dependent on a grant, but what are other ways? Maybe agriculture? Is there other ways that maybe municipalities can make more money, especially from rural areas?
Thank you so much. Just remember that not so long ago, Johannesburg was a veld. There was no city here.
Right.
So Johannesburg was a rural area. I think by 1886, this place was a rural. The Springbok and buffaloes were running here. There was these buildings were not here. So this is a new thing. It's man-made. It's created by human beings.
Okay.
So Johannesburg could have been in Thohoyandou. It could have been in Umtata. It could have been in Ulundi. It could have been anywhere. So what creates a city, or what creates wealth, is the mind of the people who are in that particular area.
Who are living there.
Right? Okay. So every potential part on earth can be a rural area. Anyone can be a city.
Yeah, we've seen it, in other parts of the world as well.
Yes. So if you go to Nigeria, they took a veld not long ago, a few years ago, and they created Abuja, a very big city, out of nothing. You go to Dubai, you go to those places, there was nothing there. So South Africans have got to get out of this idea that cities are natural phenomenon that are just born naturally there by nature. Right? A city comes out of the mind and the creativity of the people. And people must not be given excuses of thinking that they cannot develop the good life there. For instance, I come from Krugersdorp, right, where I live. And I say to the people in Krugersdorp, actually, this Krugersdorp can be as rich as Stellenbosch if we want, if we make that decision. It can be as beautiful as Paarl or Hermanus if we want it to be. It's just up to us. And we can also make the whole thing a squatter camp, all of it.
Yeah.
That is all dependent on us. So we cannot say Umtata in the Eastern Cape must be the movie capital of South Africa. They need to make that decision.
Yeah. That's true. It's up to now us as the community to make the change that we want to see. And I think, but I don't know, when we get into local government, because I want to understand a little more.
Before we just move in, I would go back to the three spheres of government. I do have a couple of questions, but while we're still on collecting revenues and how municipalities make their money, I just wanted to know, Mr. Swana, how does it affect the municipality if, as maybe as residents around the area, we decide not to pay for water or any other services that we're receiving for the municipality? How does it affect the municipality?
So the municipality, for instance, must have money to buy diesel
Okay.
for the trucks that are going to run around collecting rubbish. So, and that money is not going to come out of thin air.
Okay.
That money must come from the residents. They must first put it in the municipality. The municipality must go and buy the diesel. Then the trucks will have the diesel to go out there. The trucks must be maintained. And brooms must be bought.
Yes.
Everything that is used by the municipality does not come out of magic.
Okay.
It comes from the people who live there. Right? It comes from the people who live there.
Yeah.
So if you are going to have a clean town, it's going to come out of you.
Yeah.
Right? So when you don't pay and you have a councillor, a ward councillor advises you not to pay, because some of the problems we have where bylaws and the regulations of municipalities are not enforced because the councillors want to be elected. Then they tell you something that is impossible, that you are going to get something for nothing.
Yeah.
Nobody on earth gets something for nothing.
Yeah.
Everybody must pay for everything.
Yes.
True.
Yes.
Okay, so that idea that you are going to get clean cities, the mama wakes up at 4 a.m. to start cleaning the street, wants to be paid at month end.
That's
And
true.
where is that money going to come from?
Yeah.
Right? So we can't say all of South Africa must get money from Joburg. And where is Joburg going to get the money from?
That's a good question.
It is.
That is a good question.
Yeah.
And it takes us really to, Mr. Sunny, with our previous episodes as well, the current theme of our discussions has been community participation and involvement. What can we as the community do and hold our people accountable? But we must also stand up and do something for ourselves. What is your take on initiatives such as community forums? And do they work? Do they have an impact? And if not, then are there other initiatives that people can actually employ in order to get more involved and deal with the issues that actually are affecting them on a daily basis?
Yes. The design of our laws
Yeah.
and how governance, especially good governance, is supposed to happen. For the time being, let's talk about the municipal sphere of government.
Yeah.
The municipal sphere of government has got 3 equal partners.
Okay.
But there's one partner who has been closed out and left outside of the door. There are 2 partners that are in the dining room of the municipality. Okay. The other one is outside.
Okay.
The others are eating all the filet mignon
And the mashed
prawns.
potatoes and the
Yeah.
prawns.
You understand?
The other
There's different
2,
colors.
right? Yeah. So there are 3 partners. The one partner is the elected government, which is the mayor and the councillors. The second partner is the staff of the municipality, what people call the administration.
Right.
The third partner is the community. Now, at the present moment, these 2 partners, the administration and the councillors, are in the dining room. So the money that is supposed to be going to the community to service the roads, to ensure there is clean water, that the sewage stays in the pipes and is processed and cleansed and doing all those things,
Yeah.
they sit inside these 2 partners, the managers and officials of the municipality and the councillors. And they decide how to misdirect that money, including into their own pockets, as well as into the pockets of their political parties.
Right.
Then the others, the community, is standing outside shouting because they can see that the food is getting finished before they get
yes.
anything.
Yeah.
That is where the likes of Moses Tatane were shot dead. Once they were standing there shouting for service delivery to come, because the resources of the municipality are literally being consumed and totally exhausted by the elites of that locality. And those elites, because when you go to these small towns, a person who works for the municipality is like a god. A councillor is like a god. They are
Yes.
totally different from the population
The
that
rest.
lives from grants. These are people who are earning 500,000 and upwards
Yeah.
working jobs in the municipality. These others are getting 1,000 rand of grant. So when you look from a class perspective,
Yeah.
the ones who are not in the municipality are the absolute total underdogs. I am an educated man. But I can tell you now that where I live in Krugersdorp, the ward councillor has got no time for me. Absolutely no time.
Oh my goodness.
Right? I can request anything from my ward councillor. They will treat me like that, and I'm talking from concrete experience. So this lack, almost everywhere in South Africa, of the community
Right.
is being bullied by the administration of the municipality, being bullied by the elected politicians themselves, and the budget that goes there, which, if it was being managed according to the constitution of this country and the laws of this country, would have done a lot of good for all of us. But it's being consumed. The people who are driving the 4x4s are the ones who work at the municipality. All of us have got to find taxis and little buggies and other things to drive.
I know. And, my other worry is when it comes to emergencies. Recently we saw a couple of months ago that there was an emergency. There was a cholera outbreak in Hammanskraal, which is in the north of Pretoria. And the response there, it was a bit slow. I mean, what are the laws that guide the government when it comes to emergencies like that to contain the spread of the outbreak? And how can we prevent such things to happen? I mean, an outbreak is an outbreak, I understand that, but in future, do we learn? Are there also laws that says once this has happened, can we change the policies of how the government actually responds to such emergencies?
There's no such a thing as an outbreak is an outbreak. There's absolutely no such thing.
Okay, please correct me.
So, cholera is a waterborne disease.
Yes.
And water in South Africa is under the control of the state. Now the question is this control. What type of control? Because it means that the person who gives water to you is the one who's going to poison you.
Yes.
Right? So you are going to get cholera from your water provider. Yeah. So, first of all, there are specialist water testing laboratories in South Africa. These water testing laboratories, on a daily basis, they supposed to go around, testing the water before you consume it.
Yes.
And if they detect that there's something wrong with the water, steps must be taken to correct it.
Correct, yes, before
Right?
it gets to the people.
So if the water is being tested properly, and I've worked with municipalities at close quarters, for many years, since 2007. Now, what then happens is that at this point in time, the laboratories that are supposed to test the water, the majority of them do not qualify to test the water. Are not qualified to test the water.
Okay, that's a
Right?
problem.
If you look at how many laboratories, water testing laboratories, were functional at the time of the cholera outbreak, it was a very limited number. The number that I've seen in the media is about 2, right? So,
Sorry, Mr. Swana, that's 2 for the entire country.
They said it's 2. So, as to whether it was for the whole country, but they were highlighting the fact that there are 2 that are working, the others are not functional at that time. So if the water is being tested
Yes.
properly before you consume it, then we cannot say an outbreak is an outbreak. Because there are early warning systems for testing the water and correcting the water before it does damage to the people. So that's one thing. The laboratories don't have qualified staff. The municipalities, one of the most underfunded sections of the municipalities is the water testing unit. In Polokwane, for instance, 1 year, when we suffered listeriosis,
Yes.
the polonies and all those
And
things
all of
like
those,
that.
yes, I remember that.
I was working in that area. And it emerged that the health inspector's budget had been diverted and the number of health inspectors had been reduced in Polokwane at that time. And the facilities that were manufacturing Poloni foods, any other person in the food industry, they were not being inspected and they were not compliant. And if you go today to any of these metros and any other municipality here in Gauteng, and you check whether they have enough health inspectors, they have enough staff and enough chemicals and everything needed to test the water, and credible laboratories, it's not there. So that's the one leg, the preventative leg. The preventive leg is lacking. So, for instance, the fire that happened in Johannesburg had nothing to do. Those buildings where people were burnt alive, 78 of them here in Joburg.
People very sad about that.
So, we cannot say a fire is a fire. We can't go there.
Yes.
Right? We have courts, irresponsible judges, corrupt municipal councillors,
Yes.
corrupt politicians, corrupt administrators in South Africa who actually insist and actually succeed in putting people in buildings that are not suitable for human habitation. Then when predictable accidents such as the fire or incidents, predictable,
True.
the fire happens, the gate for leaving the building is locked.
It's locked.
Right? And they say, no, it was an act of God. They were just unlucky the gate was locked. It's a human being who locks that gate.
True.
What was that human being thinking? What was he trained to do? What laws was he following when he locked those gates?
Those gates.
Right? So there's a lot of things that were being told that it is just like that. But meantime, it reflects that the president of this country, the cabinet of this country, the premier of this province and each province, and his cabinet, the mayor and his MMCs and their professional staff are implicated in corruption, are implicated in dereliction of duty. The job is stated in the law that they must do, and they don't do it.
Yeah.
The job they must do is stated in the constitution, they don't do it. The money is given to them. The money that is short now is the money that was there before, and it was stolen by those who are in power. And then it is missing now.
Yeah.
And it is short.
Mr. Swana, I would just like us to go back to the recent fire in Johannesburg. That's when we started this conversation, we mentioned that there are 3 spheres of government. In such a case, people have died, people have lost their lives. Who then do we hold accountable? I mean, 2024 national elections are just around the corner. They will be coming back to us as citizens to say, we need to vote. And if such incidences happen and it's referred to being an act of God, it begs the question of why then do we have to vote as citizens if we can't hold anyone accountable? Who do we hold accountable for such? Which sphere of the 3 spheres of government do we go to and say, this has happened? We need to knock in someone's door.
Remember that every square centimeter of this country is known by our government. And the authority, so when Cyril Ramaphosa is the president of this country,
True.
there is no square centimeter, not a square millimeter, that is not a president of.
Yeah.
And everything that happens in every square millimeter is his direct responsibility. Everything that happens in my yard as the head of my family is my responsibility. If a person dies there or anything that happens there, I must answer first. Now, let's deal with this.
Yeah.
50 buildings that belong to the state, we're not yet talking about private sector buildings,
Yes.
are hijacked. And for years, by the mid-90s, buildings were already being hijacked. But now we're talking about 50 here in the city of Joburg that are owned by the state, that are hijacked by private sector criminals, apparently. Unfortunately, a councillor has been arrested for being part of the syndicate that is hijacking buildings. But now, if you are the state and private citizen can come and mug you, in other words, and take state property from you unlawfully by force and make it a no-go area and collect rent, and Parkstow, the mayor, every other mayor, Mashaba, Gwamanda, Mpho, they are walking past those buildings that belong to the state every day.
Yeah.
And the thugs are putting people there and collecting rent. Some of the buildings, the thugs are running with 500,000 a month to $1 million per month, collecting it from these people. And these are belonging to the government. I'm a small man, so somebody can take my building. But how do you, a local thug, go and physically take a building from the state? How do you get that done?
Yeah.
Right? Other than to say Ramaphosa is refusing to run this country. Panyaza Lisufi is refusing to run this province. Kwamanda is refusing to run this city. And this is not the only city where buildings are hijacked. Whether you're going to Krugersdorp, Mogale City, whether you're going to Swana, when you walk in Swana, when you're talking about cholera, I've physically walked in Swana, in town. And I've been walking there many years. You know, I've lived in this city 35 years non-stop.
Yes.
I've not lived in another city. I've lived here in Gauteng non-stop 35 years. You walk in Swane, in town in Swane, you're smelling urine.
Yeah.
You walk in Swane, you're smelling human feces in town.
Sure.
We used to visit these towns to go and buy beautiful clothes in the middle of Johannesburg, in the middle of Krugersdorp.
Yeah.
1982, I was attending a wedding in 1981, a wedding in Ratanda.
Yeah.
The suit I wore to that wedding, I bought it in Krugersdorp.
Yes.
In the middle of town. These towns were beautiful. We
Yes.
bought Jewish there. What was called Jewish?
Jewish is stylish,
Right.
stylish
Yes.
clothes.
Today, you walk in there, you don't know who's going to mug you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these things that cause diseases are piling thick on the pavements of
On the
our
ground.
cities.
That's true.
Right? And the mayors, the MMCs, these MMs are driving municipal managers, driving BMWs like you can only dream about. Mercedes-Benzes. But the town is smelling from a distance. You go to Dobsonville, Soweto, as you enter, the rubbish heap is at the entrance. As an African, which home do you go to where the matakala are piled up at the door?
I'm Komunyako.
Komunyako. Where do you do that as an African? Which culture informs that? Which African culture is against our culture and is being done? Pakistan knows this. Gwamanda knows this. Herman Mashaba knows this. Mpopalatse knows this. This Dada Murero, he knows it. It's there. You can see it. We can go there now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, service delivery is such a pertinent issue in South Africa. And one of the things that residents tend to resort to do is to protest. They burn tires, they loot, and they do all of this thing. Are there any other, what can I say? Ways that residents can raise their grievances apart from protesting?
Yes, the laws provide us with powerful instruments for change in South Africa.
Okay.
It is incorrect for residents not to vote out incompetent government. If lights are going out and you go back to the elections and you vote Ramaphosa back into power, you are making a mistake because you are going to reap the fruit immediately of what you are sowing. So the first thing that you need to be busy with is to vote out of power the people who are failing. And the failure, the evidence of failure is beyond question. It's not hidden. It's not secret.
Yeah.
In this show right now, load shedding happened and we had to restart the show.
We had to
Today,
restart.
now.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this is Ramaphosa's doing. This is his job. This is what he's doing. And we vote him in. There's no need to be protesting in the street. There's no need to loot any shop. There's no need to kill anybody or to burn anything. Vote these people out. I have great friends, great friends in the Eastern Cape. Two brothers, Advocate Dumisa Ntsebeza and his brother, Professor Lungisile Ntsebeza. They come from the town of Cala in the Eastern Cape. a town with great credentials in the struggle. And they roped me in to give me advice about municipalities and this and the other for many years. But I can tell you now, the municipality councillors and the administration does not listen to them. They call meetings. I'm talking many years now. Many, many years. At least more than 5 years that I've been involved there. Probably they've been busy with it for 10 years or more.
Even more, yes.
You request an annual report. You request a copy of an IDP from the municipality. You get absolutely nothing. And you are Dumisa Ntsebeza. Or you are Lungisile Ntsebeza. They spit in your face. You are nothing to a ward councillor. You are nothing to a mayor. And they do what they like. So you need to use different tactics to mobilize the community to vote differently and remove obstinate, recalcitrant, lazy, incompetent and corrupt councillors, corrupt premiers, corrupt presidents who are incompetent and not delivering.
As we conclude, I mean, I'm so happy, that you have raised all of these issues and I'm glad that our viewers and our audience would benefit from all of your knowledge, and I'm happy, and we would like to have you back, because I'm just sensing now and realizing that this topic actually is really multi-layered, that we need to go more and deeper, particularly as we are drawing closer to the 2024 national elections. I just wanted to ask, you made an example about Tshwane municipality and walking into Tshwane, and it's completely different from what it used to be, because there is absolute lack of services there as well. But Tshwane is currently not governed by one party. Do you think that if we vote for a coalition government, will that make a change? Or are we still going to be stuck? I mean, we can't predict the future. But do you think, based on what we see currently now at a municipal level, do you think that if we have a coalition, or what you referred to earlier, the recent multi-party, can that maybe move South Africa to a better place?
It will definitely move South Africa to a better place. Bear in mind that the idea of coalition government or government of national unity, local unity, provincial unity is not new. In 1994, the ANC did not win all the provinces. They had to go into an assortment of coalitions. And there were 3 provinces that were prominent in this matter. KZN was one, Western Cape another one, and Northern Cape. And it is interesting that when you talk to the comrades, they will tell you that the provinces that came late into the fold of the ANC, into a one-party government, deteriorated less than the ones that went in first.
Oh.
That is what the comrades will tell you. And I think they are right.
Okay.
The provinces that were deep and leading were deepest in the ANC, such as the Eastern Cape. The Eastern Cape used to be an exporter of education. A lot of African leaders were trained in the Eastern Cape to fight the liberation struggles. I went there myself. But today, the Eastern Cape is an educational non-entity. The Eastern Cape is a leader, an uncontested leader in poverty. Uncontested. If you want to see poverty walking around naked, go to the Eastern Cape. It's not disguised.
Yeah.
Now, the issue of elections, for instance, in Joburg, and people can say there has been a failure of coalitions in Joburg, this, that, and the other. But that failure is carefully engineered. It's not natural that the most successful governments in Africa are actually coalition governments, by the way, in Africa and in Europe.
Yeah.
Now, the coalition, the failure, if you want to call it that, in Joburg was engineered by the DA. The DA got into power, and Herman Mashaba got into power in 2016. Herman Mashaba was the mayor for 3 years. Then the DA got sick and tired of Herman Mashaba because Herman Mashaba got along with the EFF.
Okay.
Then they partnered with the ANC to remove Herman Mashaba from power. And Joburg has never been stable since Herman Mashaba left office. And unfortunately, whatever happened, I don't believe in witchcraft, but I don't know what happened. But every other mayor that the ANC tried to put in, they died.
They died.
They died. They actually died now. And whatever else happened there. Eventually, Mpho Palatse comes along after the 2021 election. Yeah. And the EFF opens the door for Palatse to get in. Palatse gets in. Mashaba is happy. Palatse and Mashaba together. And the EFF is supporting them in power. Both Mashaba and Palatse tell the DA that partner with EFF and will govern. Mpho Palatse will remain mayor for 5 years. There will be no disruption. Mpho Palatse goes to the Federal Council of the DA and they turn it down when she says, let's partner with the EFF. Then eventually the EFF says, you don't want us. We were saying the aim is to remove the ANC, the corrupt ANC, from power and to partner all of us as alternative political parties. And we are sabotaging that as the DA. The DA says, yes, we are. And overnight, Mpho Palatse was kicked out. And now the new coalition is in. And that coalition is going to stay for the balance of the 5 years. Because the stabilizing factor is the EFF.
Yeah.
In Ekurhuleni, the stabilizing factor is the EFF. That stabilizing factor was at the disposal of the DA and they rejected it. And there is nothing that the DA is going to achieve anywhere. They've got nothing. They don't have the numbers. If you don't have the black vote in South Africa, you are nothing. Last thing that I want to say to you is this.
Yeah.
Remember that you have a head, I have a head, you have a head.
Yes.
So you are created to think for yourself. There's nothing wrong in voting for the party that resonates with how you think.
Yes.
That party could even be socialist. You could vote for a Christian party. I could vote for a Zulu party.
Yes.
But the politicians we've chosen, their job is to implement the constitution, to work together.
Yes.
They must not force us to say, even though I would have preferred to vote for a party based on Zulu culture, I must vote for Freedom Front Plus. I must not be forced by politicians to do that. I must vote for the party that I want. Once they've been elected, they must find a way of implementing the laws of South Africa. Yes. Our laws are clear. For instance, why did so many students have to be damaged to get free education? Something, tertiary education. Something that's written in the Constitution.
Yeah.
Why must they die and be arrested? Their careers are damaged. Fighting for something that is already in the Constitution and the money to pay for it is there.
Yeah.
So that is what I've got to say.
Yes, but maybe also let's just, we have actually explored the shortcomings of the government of South Africa and, are there any successes as we close off? Is there any success story that you can tell us?
Yes.
Is there where they're getting it right somewhere in South Africa that we can highlight?
Yes, I think we need to deal with that and be gracious. Some of us here are parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your child comes from school with a school report. And I used to live with my nephew. Fantastic young man, Deliza. So Deliza is staying with my sister's daughter, son.
Yeah.
So he knows I'm interested in his results.
Okay.
The day that when I arrive and Deliza comes to show me the report, I know it's the day he got an A. The day he has failed, he never pitches up. Right?
I think we all did that.
when my nephew is quiet, I know things are not going well.
They're not going well at all.
But now listen to this. The student who get 80% of the exam, 80%, A student. That student got 20% wrong, got 80% right. It's a good student.
Yes.
The student who got 10% right and got 90% wrong did get something right, which is the 10%.
Yes.
And when we approach this government, we must be aware that there might be a 5%. that they
Something
got
small.
right. Right? Because the 90% that they've got wrong is in front of us. So this government is a failure. And it is an absolute total failure. So even when we pick those little things that they've done right, we must understand that we're still discussing a failure. It's like a student who got 10% in the exam. And you want to talk about and focus on the positive. But know that when we finish that discussion, we're talking about failure. So this is what it is. If you look at the South African Institute of Civil Engineers report card on infrastructure, our infrastructure as a whole is a D mark, which means that an infrastructure that is fully compliant, that can do its job, is an A mark. The lowest mark you can get is an E.
Yeah.
So our infrastructure overall is D. The best infrastructure in South Africa, which are our airports, is a B.
Okay.
It's not an A. And that is the best infrastructure. Our national roads, your N3 or your N4 to Rustenburg,
Yes.
that would be a B. There is no part of municipal roads that gets a B. Generally, provincial roads don't get a B.
Okay.
There are more Ds,
Oh, okay.
right? And some of them are E's, actually.
So we don't
Provincial and municipal roads and any other type of infrastructure, any other type, it doesn't matter which one it is, sewage, water, will be a D. So what is it that they've been able to do? Airports, national roads. Right? So mainly those are the two. Any bridge you are crossing here in Gauteng or in Joburg, you are crossing it at your own risk as we speak today. That thing can go at any time. So, you see, there's a problem when you are a failure and you want to discuss your failure. You are not going to fix anything. You see now, if I'm carrying an extra 10 kilograms here in my stomach, or 20 for that matter, I'm not saying mkhabanyana fela, omunyani. No, this is a big mkhaba. It needs to get out.
I'm so sorry.
Okay? It must get out.
Yes.
You are not going to go to any gym. You need to get rid of this.
Awukho umkhabangcono.
Awukho umkhabangcono.
Yeah. No, we hear you. We hear you so much.
Yeah. And national elections are just around the corner. What message would you like to give to South Africans as we head over to the polls?
I think look at the quality of the leaders.
Yeah.
We need to look at the quality of their education before we vote. We look at the quality. Where was this person working before? What did they achieve? Some of them, we know them. Maybe it's from Pimville. Go and check how he has fixed his home there. There are people who can drive a 7 Series, but the roof at his home is still leaking. The lawn has not been cut in 10 years.
Yes.
And there's no place where he has not impregnated people that he doesn't support.
Okay.
Yes, because you see, you cannot say you are going to take a 77 billion budget and be responsible with it.
True.
But you are failing to pay the school fees of a sub-A child who's your own flesh and blood. That is dishonest. You can see that this is going to be a disaster. This cannot be an honest person who can be trusted. Some of these fellows were at university with them. Some of them.
Yes.
Some of them are our age. We know them. They were useless then. They are useless now. And then you vote for him. You think, what are you hoping for? You know him. I mean, I can make an example,
Yeah.
When we were students, people like Supra Mahumapelo, I don't know, he's not contesting elections for now. I don't know what he's doing for the time being, whether he's going to be on any ballot. And I know they are late bloomers in life. But some of these guys, some of us during the time of were students, were in the national executive. People like Supra in Technical Northern Transvaal, he could not make it into the branch executive of Technical Northern Transvaal. Then he's a premier of a province. What is he going to do there? There are many others who are being promoted by Ramaphosa, who are useless, who are known to be useless. Some of them are implicated in the Zondo Commission. Their names are there in the Zondo Commission. Their names are mentioned in SIU reports. Some of them, their names are mentioned in Auditor General reports.
Yes.
They are part of every scandal. Yet they are being promoted by Ramaphosa. Why do you vote for such people? Because you can see this disaster. You are making it for the next 5 years. All of us are going to suffer because you are voting for wrong people. And a person doesn't become good because they are wearing an ANC t-shirt. A person doesn't become good because they are wearing a DA t-shirt. A person doesn't become good because they are wearing an Inkatha t-shirt or an EFF t-shirt or Freedom Front Plus. If you are bad regardless of which t-shirt you are wearing.
Yeah, so I guess it's just going to take a collective effort. We also have a role to play as citizens to make sure that the people that we put in power are people that we can be able to hold accountable. People, abafundile. I mean, but how do we know? How do I know? I didn't go to school. It's other people. They're there in power. There are people that we need to vote for. How do I know that this person...
No, everybody knows. Everybody knows. You see, for instance, Lape Rockville, where I come from, in Soweto. That's where I come from, actually. We knew who are the Skebengas here. There was Geshma Peshwan. We knew him.
Yes.
Right? There was Ndiko Dwabe. Right? There was Bra Clement, who was selling dacha. Right? These people were there. We knew who are the... If you want something honest done, we knew who are the honest people. We knew who are the young people abathanda isikolo. We know which ones abangasifuni isikolo. We know everything. You don't need a PhD to know these things. Amaqiniso siyawazi. Nalapha esontweni, we know who's stealing money in the church.
Okay, but thank you so much. This has been such an impactful episode. We're definitely going to ask you to come back. We need to unpack more of service delivery and other topics that I think we will really, really appreciate your invariable views and perspective. Thank you so much for joining us today. This was such an impactful episode, full of knowledge, and I hope that you benefited as much as you can from today's topic. We will come back. We will try again to have Ndade Swana to come and sit with us and explore even more before we get to the voting station. Until then, stay engaged, stay curious, and together, let's unlock the power of knowing our civil rights. Goodbye.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us in today's episode. Please don't forget to tell your friends, to tell their friends to subscribe to our podcast.